Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are looking at the absolute extremes of aviation. We're going all the way from a literal $1 ticket to a mind-blowing $500,000 flight. We're going to break down exactly what you're really buying at every single price tier. From, just barely surviving the trip to reaching the absolute peak of luxury. So strap in because the escalation of what money can actually buy in the sky, it's completely mind-boggling.
Seriously, I want you to really think about this for a second. What exactly separates a $1 flight from a $500,000 flight? Just try to imagine that stark contrast. On one end of the spectrum, you are quite literally just paying for the basic physics required to keep a human body suspended in the air. We're talking mere survival here. But on the other end, you're paying for unprecedented, unimaginable opulence that honestly makes a luxury mansion look small.
Okay, let's dive into this comparison right off the bat. Over here on the absolute bottom tier, you are sitting in a rickety, open-air aircraft. You're dealing with extreme wind rushing past you, metal clanking, and absolutely zero guarantees of a smooth or, honestly, even completely safe ride. It's tense, it's dangerous, and it is incredibly loud. Fast forward to the other extreme, though, and you're in a massive, enclosed private jet. Absolute safety is a given, and the whole environment is custom designed around extreme, relaxed luxury. It's literally the difference between bracing for impact and taking a nice nap on a couch. So let's officially kick off our journey at the absolute bottom of the aviation ladder, $1. And yeah, the sheer absurdity of a $1 plane ticket is exactly what you think it is. You are basically trading a single dollar bill for sheer adrenaline. For a buck, you're strapping yourself into what can, barely be called an airplane. You're experiencing intense turbulence, wind whipping your face so hard you actually have to wear a helmet, and this lingering, totally valid fear that you might not actually make it back to the ground in one piece.
And honestly, nothing captures that $1 experience better than this panicked quote from the passengers. Why does this sound like a lawnmower engine? I mean, when they got on this aircraft with their pilot Doug, that was their very first observation. And get this, Doug has apparently only flown this specific route half a dozen times. So mid-flight, the passengers are literally screaming that it doesn't sound safe, and Doug's only deadpan response is to just tell them to keep their seatbelts on. At this tier, Doug is prioritizing basic physics and your raw survival over any semblance of comfort.
All right, let's leave Doug behind for now and slap a massive price jump onto the board. $25,000. We're skipping right over standard economy and stepping straight into the ultra-high end of commercial aviation. Now, at this price point, you are no longer buying a simple seat on an airplane. No way. You are essentially renting a flying suite. You walk up a staircase to a whole second floor on a commercial flight, and the entire concept of personal space completely transforms.
But here's where the economics of luxury get a little bit weird. So, in the source material, the team flew on a $10,000 first-class ticket, and then later took this $25,000 ticket. The 10 grand ticket actually included a massive bathroom with a full shower, literally letting you bathe at 30,000 feet. But then, when they paid 2.5 times more money for the $25,000 ticket, the bathroom was half the size and it had zero shower and no heated floors. It's just a hilarious example of diminishing returns. Paying 25 grand actually lost them the onboard shower.
Now, what's really interesting here is when we systematically tally the perks across these commercial tiers, the leaps are just staggering. For $1,000, you're in this coffin-like pod with super low privacy, but hey, you do get some Miracle Mist lotion. Bump that up to $10,000 and suddenly you've got unlimited legroom, a personal TV, a private lounge in the back, and that famous in-flight shower. And at $25,000, you literally get 2 massive rooms with enough privacy and space to comfortably do jumping jacks, personal flight attendants serving you caviar, and a full-on queen-size bed.
But let's just pause for a second. We need to ground these extravagant 5-figure numbers in everyday reality. Would you actually pay $25,000 for a single flight? Or would you just buy a car instead? During the flight, one of the passengers openly admitted that he wouldn't even recommend it, pointing out that you could literally just buy a brand new vehicle with that kind of cash. It forces us to really contextualize this wealth. I mean, is a few hours of doing jumping jacks on a queen-size bed in the sky really worth the exact same amount of money as a car?
Well, that brings us to our next tier. We are shifting focus entirely away from high-end commercial comfort and moving into absolute exclusivity. Welcome to the $100,000 mark. We have officially left commercial aviation behind, guys, and entered the highly coveted realm of private jets. At this level, you are no longer sharing the aircraft with strangers, period. It doesn't matter how much space you have, the whole thing is yours. Let's detail this massive leap in scale for a second. For $100 grand, you get the entire plane to yourself.
It honestly feels less like an airplane and a lot more like a flying yacht. You have 4 completely separate rooms, including a private bedroom with hundreds of pillows that feels exactly like a high-end hotel room. The bathroom is so large it has its own seat and a television. Actually, one of the passengers, Nolan, even got trapped inside this luxurious bathroom during turbulence, which is wild. But you know what the biggest perk of all is? 0 TSA lines and absolutely no layovers.
And that really brings us to a fundamental truth about extreme wealth. Quote, basically, every rich person you know owns a private jet. Why? Well, because at the $100,000 tier, the true luxury you're buying isn't just the physical space or the giant TVs. It is the ability to save massive amounts of time and completely dictate your own schedule. You can take off whenever you want, eat pizza and steak exactly when you want it, and bypass the entire bureaucratic nightmare of commercial airports. At this level, you are basically buying freedom. But wait, before we reach the absolute summit, we need to take a really bizarre detour. $300,000. Now, you might expect an even faster, more luxurious private jet here. But instead, the source material takes us into the realm of pure novelty and, well, marketing absurdity. For $300 grand, they rented a blimp. Yep, a giant, slow-moving balloon that literally just gets pulled out of a hangar by a huge rope.
So what exactly do you do with a $300,000 blimp? Well, apparently you wrap it in giant letters that say "I heart Carl's mom" just to prank your friend. And then you fly it over 150,000 people at the Daytona 500, which is the world's largest race car event. But beyond the joke, there was actually a brilliant marketing angle here. They used the flight to promote ZipRecruiter and even called up a candidate named Thomas right from the blimp to interview him for a video editing job, all while floating over the race. It's just a crazy testament to how money at this tier can be weaponized for sheer spectacle.
And now we crescendo into absolute disbelief as we hit the $500,000 mark. $500,000 for one single flight. We have officially reached the absolute peak of sheer unadulterated absurdity in aviation. This is the most expensive private plane ticket on the planet. By square footage alone, this aircraft is bigger than most people's houses. And honestly, the scale of it is almost impossible to comprehend until you actually step inside.
Let's set the tone for this unprecedented opulence. Before they even saw the bedrooms or any of the amenities, the passengers were told, "I suggest taking your shoes off. That carpet's actually $2 million. I mean, wow. They were immediately hit with the mind-boggling reality that the literal fabric beneath their feet costs more than most people will earn in an entire lifetime. And this brilliantly illustrates just how wild the layout of this $500,000 plane really is. Just imagine this. You walk past dedicated crew quarters, right into multiple, extravagant master bedrooms featuring their own massive showers and, I'm not kidding, literally gold-plated sinks. Keep walking, and you'll wander right into a dedicated 12-person theater room with a couch that is definitely bigger than the one in your living room, and if all that space somehow stresses you out, well, just head over to the onboard massage tables. It completely and visually overwhelms you with the sheer scale of luxury.
But, you know, extreme wealth also brings extreme audacity. During the flight, a flight attendant presented a bowl of standard brand-name chocolate. And the host? He simply asked the attendant to literally throw it away across the room and immediately replaced it with their own brand, Feastables. It's a hilarious power move for sure, but it really emphasizes a key takeaway here. At this level of wealth, you don't just accept what's offered to you. You have the absolute freedom and power to curate every single second of your environment exactly to your liking.
So, where do you even go on a $500,000 flight? Well, we bring the narrative to its grand finale right here. The ultimate destination wasn't some exclusive summit in Davos or a private island in the middle of nowhere. Nope. The creators invited a bunch of random subscribers, people who had never even been on a private jet before in their lives, onto the most expensive plane on the planet. And the destination, they flew them straight to Disney World and gifted them a 2-day, all-expenses-paid trip. They basically turned this ultimate symbol of extreme exclusivity into a massive shared celebration. Which really leaves us with this final, provocative thought to chew on. Is extreme luxury really about the journey itself? You know, the gold sinks and the $2 million carpets? Is it about the ultimate destination you were trying to reach? Or, at the end of the day, is the true value of extreme wealth found in the people you bring with you to share the experience? It definitely forces us to question the economics of travel and what we're really chasing when we look for upgrades in our own lives. Well, thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.